Before we dive in, we want to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we're recording today, the Ngunnawal and Ngambri peoples. We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples listening. We're grateful to be on this land and to share stories here, knowing the deep and ongoing connection First Nations people have to country, culture and community.
We'd like to note that the perspectives we share on this show are only representative of one tiny sliver of sex work experiences. Sex work is incredibly diverse and no two experiences are the same. People enter the industry for different reasons, work in different settings, and navigate unique challenges and opportunities. Factors like location, type of work, personal identity, and community support all shape these experiences. It's really important to recognise that there is no single story of sex work. Each person's perspective is valid and deserves to be understood on its own terms. So please ensure that you seek out voices other than ours if you are wanting to learn. Welcome to Somebody You Love, or The Sale of Two Titties. I'm Jenna Love.
And I'm Holly Hart.
And we're experts in disappointing our parents, breaching community guidelines, and banging the people who vote against our rights.
You probably have already picked up from the title of this episode that we are talking about apps. And if you also exist in this century with us, then you're already familiar with a few. We have apps on all of our devices. And everyone always thinks that they're reinventing the wheel. Everyone comes up with new ideas that they want to appify. And one of those things, of course, is sex work.
Oh, yeah.
People love the idea of helping sex workers or of capitalising on sex work and the fact that sex sells. So we are constantly contacted by individuals with these ideas, these grand concepts, whether they're just envisioning them in their infancy or whether they've already begun to create something and have committed huge financial resources already. And we're going to have a little chat to you about our opinions on those and some of the experiences we've had with people bringing apps to our attention.
I have found this amusing phenomenon lately that I was thinking maybe I should turn it into a whole business. I don't think there's enough money in it.
You don't need more businesses, Jenna.
No, I don't need more businesses.
Stop.
No. But this one's quite entertaining. And it seems to be that there has been a number of men, and they have been men so far, who have wanted to pay me my rate, my standard rate, for me to tell them why their app's a terrible idea. And I have said to them beforehand, they've contacted me for a booking and said, I just want to spend the time picking your brain about this app or basically pitching this app to you. And I've responded saying, look, you can do that, but I'm just going to tell you now that I won't be supportive of your app. I won't give you a positive response. I can tell you without even knowing what it is that I will not support it. And every time they're like, oh no, that's okay. I understand. Like, I'm happy for the feedback. And they go along with it. And I'm just like, okay, rightio then. Like, I've been up front. What more can I do? And I assume they think, oh no, but when she hears it though, just you wait. When I pitch Uber for hookers, she won't know what to do. And yeah, the reality is every time my answer has been like, no, I still think it's a bad idea.
This may be the modern humiliation kink.
Oh, well, that's it.
Yeah.
Is that what they're doing? I don't know.
Who knows? Either way.
I mean, yeah.
You are humiliating them.
Well, it's not, like, that's not something I want to do, but
it's not the goal.
No.
But it is the
that's
result.
Not something I specialise in, is it?
No,
I make it very clear I'm not a dom, but I say to them, I'm not going to be supportive of it. And they don't. It's very interesting. And I don't want to crush people's ideas.
No.
That's not a nice thing to do. But I don't know. It's just weird.
The thing is, they're all so convinced that their idea is the one. It is so unique. Nobody has ever thought of this. And the only barrier to its success is its invention. And they are sadly very, very incorrect.
Yeah.
Sadly for them. I don't know if it's sad for us because their ideas are often not as fully formed as they think they are.
I like what you said about whether, it's them wanting to help out sex workers or profit from the industry. Like very, very hard to know. And maybe, perhaps the two combined is a very compelling motivator.
Sure.
Because they can feel like they're doing good and also see that there's money to be made in that industry, that they think there is anyway. So we've kind of broken it down into the different types of ideas people pitch to us. So there are payment apps, screening apps, advertising apps or platforms. Not all of them. It's not always necessarily an app, but it is more often than not. But sometimes it's a website or something else. And then also like something around safety resources. So we'll talk about we'll go through each of those categories. Great. I reckon.
Starting off with payment apps, which is something a lot of people try to pitch to us. I think, like we were saying before, about people thinking that they're helping sex workers as well as potentially making money. Part of it is that they do hear that we face stigma and discrimination as sex workers who are trying to use banking platforms. They also don't hear, though, how we mitigate those issues, and they don't know what we've already done and what's already been attempted. So there is something really frustrating when they bring these sorts of apps, all of these apps, all of these concepts, but in this one we're talking about payment apps, to us with absolutely no knowledge of the background of the history of what we've already seen attempted and what has failed and what we're already doing to get around the issues that we're facing with discrimination, and that really... the solution to these things is not another ridiculous app. It is actually to dismantle the stigma that we're already facing and maybe to bring in some anti-discrimination laws and some decrim. But yeah, it's incredibly frustrating because it's usually coming from a very well-meaning but a really ignorant perspective. And they stroll in with this lofty idea and this big story about how they're going to help us, having absolutely no concept that we're not idiots.
Yeah.
Look, some of us may be.
Absolutely. There's a diversity of experiences in the industry.
Sometimes I sure am. But there certainly are a lot of people in this community who are very, very bright and who come from financial backgrounds and IT backgrounds and really intellectual people who have tried a lot of these things already, or if not, who've done a lot of research into it. So that is so frustrating. But yeah, we do get a lot of financial solution apps pitched to us or brought to us for feedback.
I think one of the big problems as well is that they don't necessarily understand the nature of the discrimination. And this is not their fault, because one of the big issues when it comes to financial discrimination is stuff around our privacy. And so I've spoken publicly about financial discrimination, and I've had people say to me, oh, but can you explain exactly what that means? And there's a few of the things I can explain, like debanking, like people not being able to have like ATMs, like point of sale and stuff like that. But some of them are things that actually, by revealing what the issue is with the system publicly, we're putting ourselves at risk. And that sucks. It sucks so bad because we'd love to advocate on this stuff, but it's actually really, really difficult to do. So I think a lot of the time, the solutions that are being proposed to us actually don't address the issues that we have. And this, a lot of the perspective from outsiders is, oh, they just need a different way to bank, a bank that's going to be happy with them or whatever. But actually what we need is a way to bank that doesn't dox us, that doesn't put ourselves and our family at risk. And that is a lot harder to combat.
Can you just clarify for our listeners that maybe don't recall or miss the episodes where we've discussed what does debanking mean?
Oh, yes.
And what is like a point of sale? Some people might not understand what those things are.
Yes, I grew up with parents in retail, so... So debanking is kind of a shorthand that we use to refer to somebody losing their bank account. But it can also be used, I think people also use it to refer to losing access or an account with a payment processor. So there's a wide range of payment processors, the ones you would have heard of, like online payment processors like Square and Stripe and that sort of thing.
PayPal.
PayPal is a big one. Yeah. So, I mean, PayPal is absolutely notorious for shutting down the accounts of sex workers. So that would be an example of debanking.
And keeping the funds, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
When that's happened, they just, they don't give you your money. It's just gone.
Yeah. Some will give you your money back and some won't. I've had examples of both.
Yeah.
And apparently that's just entirely legal because you've broken their terms and conditions because you exist, because you exist as a sex worker, of course. And so you just don't get your money back. Like they just keep what money was in your account, which is really seems like it shouldn't be okay, but apparently it is. And what was the other question you asked me?
Point of sale.
Oh, point of sale. So like an ATM or an
FPOS machine.
FPOS machine.
Yeah. Or
merchant
these days,
facilities.
like a merchant facility, like a card reader and stuff like that, which any other salon or business can use, but our businesses are often deemed too high risk or not given a reason at all and just decline those services, which is... you might not think is a huge deal, but really can impact the functioning of a business in a modern age.
Absolutely.
And for a lot of people who constantly complain about sex workers having cash economy and not paying tax and then being unwilling to give them the means to accept electronic payments, it really doesn't make much sense.
Yeah.
But these are the things that do impact sex workers. As Jenna said, we are also impacted by things that threaten our safety with regards to our privacy. And so... sure, we do need a better banking system. We do need no more discrimination in that regard. But do we need an app?
Yeah. Is an app going to fix any of that? Again, neither of us are experts on this, right? I would argue that generally the biggest problem is that the people suggesting these apps are not Visa or MasterCard, who are... really two of the companies that are at the top of this whole chain that really have the power to tell banks and payment processors what businesses to work with and which ones to not and how to conduct their business, essentially.
Yeah, they're fundamentally making the decisions. So it doesn't matter what app you create, you're answering back to those people anyway.
Yeah. So you're going to be stuck with the same problems.
Yeah.
And you don't, I mean, if anyone has the power to fight back against that or whatever, it's going to be a big bank. It's not going to be some rando, is it? So I kind of think actually, number one, the issue is that they generally don't actually understand what the concerns are. And they just think it's about transferring money, and it's just a lot more complex than that, unfortunately. And number two, they can't fix them anyway.
So one of the things that we have been pitched with regards to payment apps is like an escrow type account. So what they consider is that we all perceive our clientele as risky, that they won't pay us, and that our clientele perceive us as risky, that we won't provide the service or that we're actually a scam. And that this somehow is having an enormous impact on our businesses, that we are losing massive amounts of business because clients don't trust us enough to give us money, and that clients are frequently getting scammed relentlessly, which neither of those things are true. People are getting scammed. We've discussed this on other episodes, very rarely by sex workers. I'm not saying that people out there are not scammers that are sex workers, but I'm saying that if you're giving some money to an account online that has no other presence and that money disappears and you decide that it was definitely a sex worker, you might be wrong. There are a lot of people out there that definitely use pictures of sexy women who might be offering sexy services as a way to part you from your money. I've definitely lost bookings because well, that's questionable, is it? Were they ever going to book me?
Well, you can't ever know, can you?
You can't ever know. But I've had people ostensibly say that they're not going to make a booking because they can't prove that I'm real in one way or another, which is wild for somebody with a pretty strong presence online like myself. And many other workers. Like, I think that we do what we can to prove ourselves. So these people come up with an idea based in this sort of fear-mongering that has no actual basis in the reality of what's going on with sex workers. It's based entirely in their own stigma and their own idea of how the shady sex industry is working. Yep. When really, as most of our listeners know, most of our clients know, and there's vast overlap between our clients and our listeners. We love you. But that it is a very, I don't want to say it's a mundane business. Our work can be very fun and we love it, but generally that admin side of it, we're just taking money, we're just paying bills. It's all very standard. There is vastly very normal situations going on when we're accepting payments from people. So this idea that we need an app or a small organisation to hold the money in escrow until it's proven that we've done the service is just furthering that discrimination and that stigma and that idea that we're untrustworthy. And that's really gross.
Yeah, one recently that I spoke to about their idea for an app was in this similar vein. And they were sort of saying, a big problem is people turning up and the provider isn't actually the provider in the pictures or whatever. So essentially like a catfish kind of situation, right? And they were saying, so this would mitigate that because then when you arrive and it is the person, then the funds can kind of be transferred over. And so I just sort of started asking them questions about how that works in reality. And I think that pretty quickly they saw where the flaw was there, because then I was like, well, at what point... Who's the arbiter here, first of all, that says how close you have to be to the pictures to be this, obviously sometimes you can tell it's a completely different human being, but also like where does the line get drawn?
Yes, because some people are upset that she's changed her hair colour, for example. They say, well, that wasn't what I saw advertised.
Absolutely.
At what point do we decide ethically that person is not,
is not providing what they're... Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But they've done all the work and gotten ready and all of that. Also, who's... Like, is there any oversight on that? Like, is it just the client says, no, they didn't look like I thought they might look like, which also could be that, the worker has their face blurred and so the client has an expectation in their head and they look different and they want to pull a look and leave. And then somehow that's been, we stamp that. That's okay. That doesn't make any sense. But then also you go, at what point, if the client doesn't have a nice time at half an hour into it, he goes, oh, I'm going to head off now, he or they or she head off, and then they press the button that says nah, you can't take that back, she didn't, or I don't know, it's so ugh.
Absolutely. And none of these circumstances on their own mean that a client should have to pay the full amount or shouldn't have to pay. But that's not for somebody else to decide. That is for the worker and the client to decide. Does the client want to go ahead? Has the worker taken a deposit to mitigate look and leaves or other ways of going about it? I don't want any of that to come across victim blaming. People can still do look and leaves without doing deposits. But you're putting this decision-making and this power into some strange, unknown, nebulous body's hands, and that becomes...
Well, you're putting it entirely into the client's hands in that setting, aren't you?
Yeah,
100% in that one person's hands, which is...
I mean, but it depends if this payment processor or if this decides to release them, because they may decide that they need certain hoops to be jumped through to release the funds, right?
Yeah. So, you have to take a picture and send it to confirm.
Yeah.
Like, what? It's just...
That is going to become very complicated.
Yeah.
That's not going to be sitting there and letting this passive income come in because all these sex workers are having their funds go to you. No, you are going to have to be, as that organisation, making these decisions that start to become really, really tedious and very hard to define.
Yeah. So this whole pitch from these people was about how, one of the big issues that we face in our industry, which I got to say, it actually isn't a big issue that we face in this industry. It's very far from the top of our list of issues. It may be issues that clients face in the industry, but that's not, that's not what they weren't asking clients. They were asking me. The one of the big issues is that clients are hesitant to hand over money without, making sure that the worker, the provider actually shows up to the booking and is who they say they are. So I said, what is the proof here of somebody showing up to the booking? And then they started explaining geolocation, GPS, they can say, oh, these two people were in the same location for an hour. So, that's a way of proving that the booking went ahead. And I was like, first of all, there's no planet on which you're going to get sex workers to agree to have their location fucking monitored. Are you fucking serious? But also, second of all, two people being in a room for an hour together doesn't prove that a service took place. What is that? And I'm not suggesting you need to find a better way to work out what service took place. I'm not saying, I don't want you to prove that the service took place. But my point is just that there isn't a way to do that unless you're one of the two people or multiple people involved in the service. So we really can't be just putting this down to a fucking app that someone presses a button and someone on the other end presumably approves or whether there's an algorithm, like what, it doesn't make sense. It's not a good idea. And even if it were a good idea, like even if it's just that I can't see what's good about it or something, sex workers aren't going to take it up because there's just so, like, first of all, it's handing money. It's your money is being held by some third party. It's also just like, yeah, it's not going to happen.
I'm not going to make any moral judgments, as always, on our lovely clients, but there are a lot of them out there who will turn off their location sharing services when they come for a booking out of caution for their own personal circumstances and for their own privacy. So I don't know how these apps are going to work when half of the people who come to see us are somehow, they're still in the office. It's on the other side of town. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so actually you're right. Neither side is particularly
Wants to be
keen
monitored
on having their sex location broadcast or kept in some database somewhere. Mm-hmm. I reckon I'd go so far as to say most people don't feel the need to have that data tracked. Okay, so the next type of app that we get pitched to us is some sort of app for the screening process. Now, similar to the payment stuff, the fundamental flaw here in my mind is that we are very, very cagey about how and why and what choices we make around screening because it's important for our safety, for us to be, private about it. So there's a big issue here already where people who aren't in the industry actually already don't understand the difficulties that we might face with screening or the reasons for why we do what we do. So my experience with this, with people pitching some kind of screening app, is that they seem to think that there are two fundamental issues in the industry. And that is that providers don't trust clients or potential clients, and that potential clients don't trust providers. Again, we've got way bigger issues than any of that. But second of all, we just don't see it that way. So screening, I'm sure we've chatted about on the show before, but screening in my mind essentially is the process by which a sex worker decides whether or not they are going to see a particular client, take a particular booking, etc. It happens in every single facet of the industry in a really wide range of ways, and lots of us have a range of different things in our screening toolkit that we might employ. So this can include things like asking for a photo of a driver's license or, a utility bill or something to confirm the identity of the person contacting us. It could be taking deposits, and that is proving, that the client is serious to an extent, that they are genuinely wanting to turn up to the booking because they're willing to put some money down to secure that booking place. It could be, if for somebody who's a street-based worker, for example, it could be just the conversation that they have initially, the initial negotiations, where it's this question of, what are the vibes I'm getting from this person and what are the things they're saying, and do I feel comfortable, going to a different location with this person, essentially. So it can cover all sorts of things, but it's basically how we decide and whether we decide to see a client or not.
So the people who approach us, right, so they think that workers don't trust clients and clients don't trust workers, and so how do they think they're going to fix that?
Well, so this particular pitch that was given to me, or the one that made me think of this, was that it would go through government databases.
Oh, good.
So, yes, because the government loves hookers. And we always have such faith in their abilities to record keep and to keep us safe, don't we?
And the government loves sharing all of their data with random civilians who create companies they're just going to give that out.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, this was so it was similar to the escrow idea, but for information.
Oh, so it was like it was kind of, they give you like a thumbs up or something.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay.
It was like a. So you have your work. Well, so we as sex workers, we would have on this app or whatever, we would have our Jenna Love would be on this app,
verified,
and that would be verified with the government.
Right.
So there would be a list somewhere that has legal name is Jenna Love on this sex worker app. It is the no sex worker's going to agree to that.
No.
I mean, I'm a sex worker who the government absolutely has that list, but there's
many who don't.
There's so many who don't.
Yeah.
And probably just should remain not doing it. it's just insane that any sex worker, the idea that we would sign up for that is fucking hilarious. And then the idea is the clients would then do the same. And that's arguably equally as hilarious because who wants this connection between their like client identity and the government? So the government says, yes, thumbs up, this person is actually they're who they say they are, so you can go ahead and do your sex booking.
You can pay for your sex.
What?
Yeah.
Not to mention that there are places, a number of places in this country alone where sex work is still criminalised and different aspects of sex work are criminalised. So I don't know why anyone thinks anyone would want to be giving their information to the government around that at all. But I think beyond that, beyond this idea that just would never work, the whole thing with when people come to us with suggestions for screening stuff, it's always about how do we protect the identity of both the worker and the client. And I would say that they are fundamentally misunderstanding the power dynamics at play. A provider has so much more to lose from their identity being, broadcast. We are at such a higher risk of violence, of stigma, of discrimination than clients are. And that's not to say that clients aren't at any risk of that, right? But nowhere near as much that sex workers are. I mean, it blows my mind that I have to continue explaining this. It blows my mind that people keep telling me that sex workers don't face stigma.
Yeah. Or that they think the risks are comparable. Yeah. That they think that, and like you said, we're not saying at all that clients are not facing risks of humiliation and relationship breakdown or reputational issues, but very rarely, very, very rarely are they facing life or death situations, whereas that is historically can be an outcome of the discrimination that sex workers face. So they're really different levels of disaster that can occur, and it's just so misguided.
Yeah, and frankly, as we always say on the show, I have so many wonderful clients and I adore them, and I'm really thankful for the trust they put in me by sending me deposits before the first time they met me and stuff. But at the same time, I don't really care if people are not trusting me. I don't care. If there's somebody who's like, oh, I really want to book Jenna, but I don't trust her enough to, okay, go somewhere else then. That really doesn't bother me. And that's coming from quite a privileged perspective. And I understand there are workers who would feel otherwise, right? But I'm like, that is just nowhere near my level of concern of, is this person going to hurt me? Yeah. It just doesn't compare in my mind.
Mm. Yeah, the scale of it is what is more stressful for me, the thought that I might encounter violence or the fact that I might lose a bit of income. And this is the decisions that you make every day, is risk assessment in your life. But and sex workers in particular, depending on their position, where they're at and what sort of things they're facing, they do make those decisions, and it can get more and more challenging when you are more marginalised and when you are struggling more financially. But as you said, when you are in quite a privileged position, absolutely you're not going to put yourself at risk over somebody who is not able to trust you. That sucks for them, too bad. They might be a really lovely person, but that's a decision that you can make that decision. Yep. You can make that choice. So yeah.
And the great thing is there's always brothels.
Yeah.
So I'm not denying anyone, there's always somewhere they can go. Well, there's less so brothels in places where brothels are criminalised, but still.
And the reason that you say that there's brothels is because you don't have to screen at a brothel, right? You can just turn up there and people might think, well, maybe that's more risky for the workers there. And maybe it is. But of course, brothels have their own other ways of making sure that there is some amount of safety.
Well, that's what I mean about screening.
Absolutely.
There's screening in every facet of the industry.
All sorts of levels, yes. So if you're not happy to part with your real world information or whatever it is, a deposit or whatever it is the sex worker's asking for that you feel is too risky, then yes, there is another avenue, which is a brothel. But then you face other ways of them determining their safety. And these are the decisions that you make and that sex workers make. So.
Of course, there are independent sex workers as well who don't insist on
absolutely.
Because, we all have our own way of screening. And
yes. Yeah.
And then the final kind of app or website idea that we get pitched to us all the time is advertising websites or advertising apps. And this is the one that they like to sell to you as Uber for sex workers, I think.
I think it's the most common one we get mostly is, people seeing it and thinking, wow, sex workers really need help with their advertising. And probably because we do complain a lot on social media about the existing advertising sites that are out there. None of them are perfect, and we certainly do rely on them to get our name out there as much as possible, especially on an internet which constantly deplatforms us, deletes our profiles on all of the social media apps, and makes it difficult for us to get our names out there. We rely on these advertising sites. So people think, wow, this would be a great opportunity to take a small cut each month or a large cut each month from these workers, and times thousands of sex workers in any region make a whole lot of money. And I think some of them come in thinking that they really do have a really great idea. I think all of them think they have a great idea, but I think some of them think that they're genuinely going to help us.
Totally.
That they have a thing that nobody's thought of that is so necessary. And so often it so misses the mark. It's things like... and I'm not saying that any of the things that we rag on here are not utilised by some sex workers. I'm sure some people find all things useful, but things like a chat room for workers and clients on an advertising site, like it's really unnecessary, and it just creates extra work for us. What other weird things have we seen that these advertising sites have come up with? All sorts of tiers of like VIPness. It just, proving, you pay us this much extra and we'll promote that you're the best escort in this region. And that then dilutes the value of any of that anyway, because you've got 50 different tiers of a banner on a different profile saying how VIP each one is. But all other sorts of functionalities that really are so unnecessary when what we really just want is fair advertising that doesn't fall apart on us all the time. Like the bar is pretty low. And somebody will hear this today or whenever they listen and say, I can do it. What they're talking about, it's me. I've got the best idea. I can do. I can make better than all the other ones. And I don't think people realise how expensive it is to create a site like this, and how long you have to push uphill to get that SEO happening, because Google, of course, doesn't really want to push your sex website to the top of their pages, and it is just so freaking hard and so expensive, and the returns are not guaranteed. I think people think it's going to just be a really easy cash cow, and it's absolutely not.
Yeah, and I think there's two big reasons that all of these things won't work, in my mind. The first one is that people want to put these on the App Store, and that's not going to happen. It's certainly not going to happen on the Apple App Store. And whenever I say that to them, I say, okay, but, this is a payment processor, or it's a screening tool, or it's a advertising thing for sex work. And so you have no chance. This will not be approved, and thus, what's the point? And they say to me, no, because it's not a payment processor for sex work. We would market it as just a payment processor, but then it happens, I'm like, you don't think... you don't think I've played this game? You don't think that's how I conduct everything I do on the internet? I'm not a sex worker. I'm just, I know the little game you're playing, hon, and it doesn't work. Yeah,
they're seen it all before. That.
Yeah. And the amount of websites, a good example would be wishlist. Yes. Websites, right? Where how many wish lists have sex workers gone through, and none of them, or that I can think of, most of them, as far as I know, aren't sex work specific at all.
Yeah.
They are just, we're a site where a creator can come and have a profile and, and one by one, they get taken down.
Just for anyone who's not familiar with wish lists as well, the idea of wish lists is that people can list things that they would like and gifts and receive them without having to part with their personal details, their address and things like that. So, Twitch creators use it, all sorts of content creators from around the internet use them, but particularly sex workers really like them because it helps them protect their identity. But... we're not loved.
No. And so those sites get shut down when they allow sex workers on there. So either we can't go on the site or they allow us and then eventually it tends to get shut down. So it's just very funny that these people who I've been saying this whole time to, actually sex workers face really extreme levels of stigma and discrimination, are like, oh, no, we'll be able to get it on the App Store. And I'm like, oh, can't wait till you discover that I've been telling you the truth.
How naive.
Like I haven't just been making that shit up. But fundamentally, like the other big issue with all of this, right, is that sex workers, we don't trust people who aren't peers. We just don't. Our movement doesn't. There are these tiny little windows where we will, under certain circumstances, if someone has really, really, really proven that they are an ally and we are giving them this tiny little sliver, you know. But broadly, we don't trust people that want to come into our world and make money off it without getting on their knees and sucking cock like the rest of us have to.
Well said.
But there is a bit of a bonus one, which is not really an app, but something I've come across a little bit on the internet, which is people, civs, is what we call non-sex workers, putting together safety resources.
Oh, yeah.
For sex workers. And I come across them, I'm like, oh, let me learn about what I can do to be safe as a sex worker. I assume this is what's hard, right? With all these things, like you're like, I can tell that you think you're helping, but it's really, and I don't want to be a dick to people like that, but it's really hard to see how they could possibly think they're helping without thinking that we're absolute idiots. Like I can't, all that says to me is you think we don't know how to do this and that we haven't been doing this for hundreds of years, you know. We have our own resources and strategies. What we actually need, like what we need to be safe, or what sex workers need, is law reform, is better funding, and a reduction in stigma and discrimination, so that we can put all of the existing practices that we have to keep ourselves and one another safe into better practice and have wider reach and make sure that no sex workers are getting left behind. Somebody putting together some tips on, make sure you tell someone where you're going. Oh, I didn't fucking think of that, did I? And then there are places in the world where that's illegal for us to do. So actually somebody saying, that's actually just incredibly unhelpful.
It's also just incredibly infantilizing. Like you said, they mean well, but the thought that none of this has crossed our minds before is just yuck. And I know that there are going to be sex workers out there who have slipped through cracks and who don't know some of this stuff. But generally, if you're a little bit concerned about a sex worker, an individual, and you think that they could use some assistance, you can give them the information for their local org. I think that probably is the best way to give a sex worker tips if you're not a sex worker, aside from financial tips. That's lovely as well. Mm-hmm. But if you are worried about the safety of a sex worker and you feel it's appropriate to let them know, direct them to a peer org. Otherwise, they may very well be across the information, or as you said, the information may even be harmful. So please, we know you mean well, but it makes us cringe, not from us getting the ick at you, but it's just not really nice being educated on something that we live. So thanks, we love you, but
My too long didn't listen about, do we even need these things, right? Is a better payment system, a way of receiving payments. Yes, abso-fucking-lutely we do, but
it's not that simple.
It's just not that simple.
Yeah.
New screening systems. Nope, we're good. Thank you. A new advertising platform, a better advertising, maybe.
Good luck.
But again, good fucking luck. Yeah. And do we need safety resources written by non-peers? Absolutely not.
It is time for our question of the episode. One of our lovely listeners asked, how can brothels be convinced to list on their websites which providers are willing to book with women clients?
I have no idea.
Thanks.
See you next time.
The end.
Because I don't know if it's still there, but there's a brothel I worked at like a decade ago that the last time I checked still had me listed as working there. And I was there for a couple of months. You know, like I think we are a few steps away from answering this question because I think it's hard enough to get them to, actually have accurate listings of who's there. And I have seen some that are a lot more accurate and will put like shifts and kind of rosters up and stuff. But like, I just think, I don't know how you can convince them other than as a customer, asking them, sending through that feedback. But I think that it's a bit, running any kind of website where you're like needing to do kind of like regular updating that's really resource intensive. Like they'd kind of need to have someone assigned to that task, I think.
The other problem with it is that sex workers can be notoriously unreliable. And particularly in brothels where you are working so hard, a lot of the time the workers are really, really working hard and doing a lot of shifts. Occasionally they'll take a night off. And so it's really hard to predict with any accuracy who is going to be there for what shifts, for how long, whether they'll be available, whether on that night they'll be in the mood to see one client or another, because it's just so many variables are involved. So probably the only way to know who would be willing to book with female clients would be to call them on the night and ask if they have any workers that are on tonight who are able to see women workers. But even then, understand that by the time you get in, that worker may have wrapped up for the night. They may not be comfortable to see you, like they've got the cameras in there. Maybe they know you, maybe they don't. Like there's so many things, again, that make it really hard. So you roll the dice and you take the risk, but there is just no guarantee. Even in a perfect world where they could update the website all the time, there's just so many reasons why that could be a challenge in a brothel.
Yeah, it's a really tough one. Sorry, we don't have an answer for you, but it seems like a very reasonable request, but I suspect it's unlikely to be fulfilled anytime soon.
I think it's a little bit harder because we do live in this heteronormative world, and there's plenty of queer workers, but I think as well women, I'm going to speak totally from my own experience here, but my memories of working in a brothel were that a lot of the women that worked in there, even if they were queer, were just not as confident working with women and seeing female clients, and didn't feel as confident in being able to offer a quality service. So they may well be, in theory, happy to see women, but just so were nervous about it that they just didn't. They just said, I can't see women. So that's really hard. So sorry, as women who like women, that's one of the tough things we've got to face. It's a tough world for us out there.
Yeah. I mean, there was one brothel I worked at, one of the workers was gay. She exclusively in her private life was with women, but she would not see female clients because for her, like, that was kind of her boundary of how she kept it work, and she felt she didn't want to be paid to see women. That was her personal, like, that was her separation thing, Sure. And like, whatever, everyone's got their own, you can say what things that brings up for you. But for her, that was where her line was. So, you haven't asked why there aren't more. Yeah. But I do think, because I went with a partner to a brothel once. Yeah. And I was really surprised at how few of them were happy to have me in the booking. I was like, what? But I know you're all gay. What's going on? But yeah, I just wanted to share that, there are there's quite a number of reasons why they may not. Unfortunately, annoyingly, but it is what it is. And now it's time for a shit people say. Over to you, Holly.
So a few months ago, time.
What is
I know
it?
you love to talk about time, Jenna, but time, it does fly.
Does it? Or is it pretty constant? Is it? Yeah.
I heard from somebody that I used to date who, let's not even get into it, but every few years sort of sends me something wistfully and yearningly, right?
Love it.
Yeah, bless. Reasonably harmless individual. But so there had been a little bit of back and forth. Oh, I might be in your town soon. Oh, we might say g'day or something like that, right? Really casual. So he sent me a message and he said, so when are you coming to visit? If you want to stay the night, I'll take the couch. I'd love to hear all your stories. Honestly, I think it's awesome what you do. And like we said, quite harmless, but this brought up a conversation with Jenna and I about this really strange way that people tell us that they're cool with our work, which is actually not as cool as they think it is.
No.
It's actually really, really insulting.
Yeah.
So this guy, I know he means well, and he obviously knows what I
Yeah.
do. I mean, everyone these days knows what I do for work. But him saying, honestly, I think it's awesome what you do, as if he's somehow unique for that, and it's really brave and really cool of him to like what I do, was so insulting.
Yeah.
I didn't take it personally. I'm not going to ruin his life over it, but God, I was like, you really think that that's something really morally, or not even morally, but like mature of you. You've really grown up for actually thinking it's cool that I don't have a job.
Because he doesn't see it as a job, you mean?
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that I have what is fundamentally to me just a job.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to him.
Well, you just wouldn't say that about other jobs.
Exactly.
Again, right?
Yes.
Like, you just wouldn't say, oh, honestly, I actually think it's quite cool that you're a dentist. Like okay, why wouldn't you? Okay,
Yeah, it's just a
a bit. And so it really is giving that I'm not like other guys, or I'm not like other, like I think it's cool. And as you said, like they're trying to be like, I'm okay with it. But what they're saying is, I know this is highly stigmatized.
Yeah. Everyone else thinks
it must be an awful life for you, but I can put that aside and I can see through that, and it's so insulting because you're like, actually, all of my loved ones are wonderful. Like, actually, it's not a big problem.
Yeah.
Broader society, yes, it's a big problem. But like, I've got plenty of people who don't have to say, actually, I'm okay with it. They just actually are fine with it. Like, yeah, it's just another one of those examples. And like, it's minor. We're not saying that this is a big, grievance. This isn't violence that we're experiencing, but it is just like that. It's just another reminder that people get so fucking weird and awkward around it. And just whether they're trying to be positive or negative, whatever it is, it just turns them into these strange beings that can't react like they would to any other job.
I recently went to an event, and the gentleman asked the bunch of us who were going to attend to have a quick phone call before we arrived, which already is really annoying. But he took the call and he said, what do you do for work? And as always, we've discussed on this show before that you make this split-second decision. Am I going to do some emotional labour here, or am I going to lie? Like, am I going to advocate but also be ready for weirdness? And I decided I was going to do that. So I said, I'm a sex worker. And he immediately went, yep, okay, well, so, and it just became so fucking awkward. And it's very different to the other example that I gave, but it is just a thing where it's like, don't ask people about their jobs. I think if you're not ready for all of
but they're
answers.
not, because they don't think anyone would ever say that they are a sex worker, and they don't think that this thing you were going to wasn't a cheap thing, so they don't think that you could afford that, because they assume that sex workers
you're right. Yeah, true, maybe.
And they don't they don't think that's ever going to be, or if you could, that you would hide it because you would have some shame.
Yeah. Which is, there is some joy in that, right? In disclosing it in unexpected places to make people check that and to realise.
Absolutely. I quite enjoy that experience of making people uncomfortable with just the reality of my life. Like, I won't go out of my way to make people uncomfortable, but if it's just what I do day in, day out, then they're going to have to grow the fuck up and deal with it.
But facing those awkward responses, we've talked about so many kinds of awkward responses that people give when we disclose our work. And one of the gross ones is that, I think it's all right, because the implication is that nobody else does, and it's very insulting.
Yeah, well, we didn't actually ask, though.
Yeah.
Wasn't looking for your approval, which I think should be clear from the fact that we just say it confidently. Right. And, I'm like, what part of my tone made you think that I needed you to reassure me?
Yeah. Thank you to our ever supportive, beautiful patrons. We have a new giving somebody called How About No, which is friendly. Two new generous somebodies, B and Eden. The new very generous somebody, the Celeste Noir.
We have our even more generous somebodies. They are Riley McDonald, Desiree Frambois, Ashley Stafford, Rhiannon Rhodes, Lachlan, Timmy, Steve, Adele, Leslie, Biggie, NK, Andrew, Wheezy, Mr. E, Simon, Nomad, Luke, not so witty comment. Josh, Alex, Damon, not a 9-incher. And
our beloved Mary.
And our extremely generous somebodies are Aaron, Pete, Sienna Saint, Tim, and Mr. Sikunt. Alrighty, that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully you've learnt that we don't need any apps. Thank you.
Could create some apps for some other areas in need. I'm not saying marginalised peoples, but I don't know, some wildlife rescue organisations might need some help with logging where their animals are or tracking calls. I don't know. I'm just making this up. But maybe there's something else that needs your help.
Maybe you'd have to be involved in that community first, though. Even you can't just be the same thing. You can't just go up to them and be like, I've solved the wildlife problem, because they'd be like, we actually know a lot about this.
No, honestly, do it. Just leave us alone. That's what I'm going for here. I agree. I think you should be. But if you're going to do this sort of saviour complex stuff, just
do it with other people.
Get it away from us.
Or animals.
And not people. Yeah. Let's, or I don't know, recycling company. Find ways to recycle things through an app. I don't know. But leave marginalised people alone. And leave animals alone as well. But if you just please.
I'm going to get a photo of you crying and put the Leave Britney Alone text on it.
Yeah.
Leave marginalised people alone.
It's very hard to get a photo of me crying.
I know.
You'll have to show me.
I reckon, though, I've got video of you laugh crying that I could freeze frame.
You could.
I could never show you, though, because you'd never leave the house again.
Yeah, no, don't show
I won't
me
do that.
ever a photo of myself.
Well, okay.
I don't do it with that well.
No.
I do weep. I do have a little weep when I watch babies being born, which is really weird. Yeah,
that's so weird.
Show me a childbirth video and I start involuntarily weeping.
What's the feeling? Like horror?
No, awe.
Oh, interesting.
At life, which is, I hate the idea of being pregnant. I'm not into babies at all, but something about watching this a human life begin, it just some innate thing in me makes me start weeping. It's wild. And this is a woman who
I can't believe I didn't know this about you.
I can't cry from many things, many emotions. Is a baby being born?
Wow.
I know, isn't it weird? It's very sick.
It's odd.
It's very odd.
It does make sense. As you said, it makes sense.
Something.
Anyway, let's do a whole other episode on this, because now we're talking about this.
Well, I figure we're wrapping up the show at the end of this season, so then we can launch into an aftershocks sort of.
What is that? Is that a pop culture reference?
No, it's just, after an earthquake. We've done the actual.
We could
content.
call it after squirts.
After squirts. Sorry, I just scratched you. And a season of just unhinged yaps like this.
So you think we haven't been doing that already?
No, well, we've had a goal with sex work education, but I think
we have had some purpose.
Yeah, well, each episode we've got a goal, but I think whole episodes of us
just a season of bullshit,
just yapping about our dumb fucking random. I don't think they're dumb, but unhinged thoughts.
Sure.
So let us know if that's something you'd be into.
I can't guarantee that mine won't come back to sex worker activism, though. That's the problem.
Yeah. And I can't guarantee that I won't get cancelled if...
You absolutely... I mean, I can guarantee that you will, actually. Yeah.
So if that interests you, let us know.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. Sorry for the wait between episodes. We're both very busy. Us two. We never stop. We never rest.
3 of us, actually.
Three. Our producer. Is that what he?
I think I'm the producer.
I don't know anything
He's
about
the
showbiz.
sound engineer.
Sound engineer.
Editor.
Okay. He's a producer to me.
Okay. Anyway.
I wish you could see the facial expression, listeners. Yes.
But this is a podcast. So you can't see the facial expressions.
These days, podcasts.
That's what I'm referring to.
Oh, yes.
Fucking sick of
video podcasts.
Yeah. Well, no, it's fine if they called it a video podcast.
Right. No, they just call it a podcast.
It's just a podcast.
But it's
it's a video, babe.
But
it's
often it's not even a podcast. It's like short clips on social media.
Yes. It's just a video.
It's just
There's already a word for that.
It's just a TikTok.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or a reel.
Yeah.
Or,
it's not even a YouTube length video.
Or like a vlog. It just...
Yeah. So this is a taste of after squirts. Yeah.
I don't mind after squirts as a name.
I'm into it.
It's kind of catchy. It was good. It just rolled off the tongue there.
Smooth.
Yeah.
All right. Love you.
Bye. Please look out for us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Patreon. Our name everywhere is Somebody You Pod, as in podcast. Our Patreon starts at just $3 a month, and you can get all of our episodes ad-free and a day early, plus bonus episodes, behind-the-scenes action, bloopers, and more. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the voices of sex workers. And remember, somebody you love might just be a sex worker.